Hey there, beautiful people. Today I want to take the time to explain something I do in almost every video that some people might actually find annoying or like, why does she keep doing that? Especially because some people um, that understand things very clearly may feel insulted or like, why is she talking like that? Why is she explaining or mansplaining or whatever you call it? Because in most of my videos, if not all, I do take time to break down certain terminology or vernacular when I'm discussing certain topics. And I give you the definition and then I give you examples. And it's not to insult anyone's intelligence or make anyone feel bad. It's not to assume you don't know, except a little bit. As far as the don't know part, I don't think you're an idiot, but I do think as a whole in society, there is some ignorance because you don't know what you don't know, and nobody knows everything, even though I like to feel that way sometimes. Nobody knows everything, and there are certain things you are aware of, but what you know about it may not be completely true or the whole truth. And sometimes it's just a misunderstanding, and can be because of cultural, language, religion, different things where you grew up at. People use words wrong all the time, and there's so many words you can use. Some words don't directly translate from language to language and things like that, and a lot of things get lost in translation, literally. And I mean translation as in body language, our tone, our expressions, not just the actual language in which you're speaking in or translating it from like English to Spanish, so to speak, but just the translation of you giving that information or communicating with someone else. Things get lost for a lot of reasons, and we're not going to go into like body language and stuff like that today. I don't intend to, but if it comes up or becomes a thing, then I may talk about it more. But I just wanted to take the time to explain, to help give you some perspective, and this may help you in your personal life when it comes to the communication. I'm not about to tell you how to talk, but I want to explain why the way you talk and say certain things matter. And so language matters, and I've said that, I think I've mentioned that in a couple of times, that hey, the words you use matter when you're talking about certain things. The vocabulary holds meaning. All these words mean something. And yes, sometimes depending on how you use them, they can imply something else. And in certain generations, they use words like ridiculous to say something is cool, which can be confusing if you send it to someone of an older generation, right? But in general, if we are not saying what we think we're saying, then there's so much room for misinterpretation. So I just want to highlight a few things so you can give it more thought, so that actually I think you should be a little more intentional about the words you use and how you talk and what you say. When they say what you mean and mean what you say, I wholly and totally agree with that. The problem is a lot of people think they're doing that and they're not. And they're frustrated, and the people they're talking to are frustrated, and I see it a lot in couples counseling when everybody thinks they're saying something clear, but no, but the other person doesn't understand what they're saying, and it's like maybe you're not hearing things, maybe you're not saying things as clear as you think, and then sometimes the reason people misunderstand you is a whole nother issue that we're not particularly getting into today, but some of it may overlap. So using vocabulary, whatever words you want to use, vernacular, jargon, all these words are relatively interchangeable depending on the context. But the words you use, your word choice, also known as diction, the choice of words you use to talk about something, to explain something, to identify something matters more than people want to believe it, because of course people like to say it's not that deep. Yes, it is. Are you tired of people misunderstanding you? Are you tired of everything turning into an argument? Maybe you're tired of everyone thinking you like to argue when you don't. You just tired of being misunderstood as a fellow person who hates being misunderstood, right? Or, maybe you are more shy because you think people won't understand you if you were to talk because of past experiences or just in general. You think different. All these different scenarios apply for all types of people from all walks of life, not just people of a certain intelligence level. It's just the nature of the beast. But again, because so many people have so many different walks of life, just because you think you are being explicitly clear, you may not be. In the same way, someone can watch this video and not understand anything what I'm saying, or misunderstand what my point is exactly. And there's nothing I can do about that, because I am being abundantly clear and choosing my words carefully. And that's why I say people's understanding and comprehension is a different thing. We're talking about what you say, not what people hear. Okay? Very different things. So using vocabulary is very necessary for effective communication. And I use the word effective intentionally. You can also maybe sub it for the word healthy communication, but not just communicating, because talking is communicating. Everything you do communicates something. Me using my hand gestures make you think I'm upset or excited or whatever, right? If I'm giving you eye contact versus not, if I'm frowned up, if I'm high pitched versus a lower pitch, if I'm talking slow or soft versus loud, all these things communicate something, right? You assume I'm angry, you assume I'm sad, you assume I have an attitude, I'm having a bad day, whatever it is, you're making assumptions because everything communicates something. And I think if we are more accepting of that, of like everything communicates something, regardless of what your intent is, then we can be more careful and effective in the way that we communicate with each other. Think about people, and this may be you, who have RBF, also known as resting itch face, right? I do prefer not to curse. But the B connected to the word I said it initially rhymes with witch. So if you have RBF or know someone who does, people always assume they're stuck up or mean or unapproachable or impersonable. And they may be me, the silliest, outgoing, friendliest person, like love to talk, love to laugh, but you assume because you felt like their expressions or the lack thereof, because they're not smiling, communicated to you, leave me alone, when that is probably a miscommunication, right? And so I use effective communication, meaning you're communicating what you want to communicate. You're communicating what you intend people to take away from whatever it is you're doing or saying. And that's what makes it effective because it gets the point across. If the point is not being made, then it's probably not effective. Does that make sense? Because I can get wordy and it becomes ineffective. And I know that about myself. And a lot of you may be like, you use so many words to just say this. I've said just those, I've said this in fewer words and it still didn't land. So I've tried the shorter version and this is the longer version. And that's why I dedicated a video for it. Okay. So accurately articulating what you want to say or how you feel can make or break a relationship. And that's romantic, platonic, or familial. Because when you have people in close proximity to you, community support, your loved ones, they take everything personal to an extent because of our biases, because they think they know you so well, they care about you, they want what's best for you, all these things. So they kind of already we naturally read into things anyway. And for people like me, who is very intentional about what I say and how I say it, I am the person that's like, don't read into what I'm saying. I literally said what I meant and meant what I said. But because so many people in the world don't, and they say like, well, you took it the wrong way, or you it was implied this, or you should have known because of this that I meant this. That's not effective. You cannot tell people that they should have made something out of what you said other than what you said. But because society does typically operate that way, then people approach me and read into everything I'm saying. I'm like, I didn't say that. I literally did not say that. And they're like, well, because and then they're explaining why they thought that's what I meant. And I'm like, but I said what I meant. You know what I'm saying? And that causes issues for everybody, for people like me and people who are on the other end of the spectrum that just like, oh, maybe she meant this, or oh, why did she do this? And it's like, relax. And if you have anxiety, that's probably particularly bad. Or if you feel like you suffer from people pleasing, then that also is probably particularly bad because you tend to spiral very quickly. And respectfully, you should see somebody about that because that can be exhausting for you and the people you're in relationship with. And there's so many things that interferes with in the long run, that there's so much misunderstanding going on and that other person probably doesn't know, and it is negatively impacting relationship in minor ways, but those things will add up over time. So you if you are upset, ideally you should be say, I am upset. When you did this thing, this it hurt me, it made me feel unseen, it frustrated me, I felt betrayed, instead of, I don't know, shrugging your shoulders, giving the silent treatment. That is not effective communication. And sometimes when you're arguing, because you're so upset, you're just saying based on what you feel, and now you're bringing up the past and all these other things. It's getting personal and maybe name calling. Still ineffective. You're just expressing ineffectively how you feel instead of saying, I am angry, I am frustrated, I am annoyed. because of these things. You're not saying that. And now you want the person to infer, which sometimes they can. To be fair, people say, oh, you seem upset. And you're like, oh, well, you think? No, clearly I'm upset. But other times there's a lot of people who are upset when people don't say what's wrong, when they're intentionally doing different things passive aggressively, and they will say in therapy like, well, I feel like I'm waiting for them to ask me what's wrong. And that's not fair. I'll use that word. That's just not fair, because sometimes people catch it, sometimes people won't, but people have their own things going on that they may overlook it and miss it unintentionally, not because they don't care, not because they don't love you, but because they have so much going on, they just letting you have a moment to yourself. I'm not talking about people who are completely unsupportive and ignore your needs. That's different, right? But people are not going to catch all your cues. That is not an effective style of communication to give clues and hints. That is very immature. So if you do that, yes, I'm calling you out, help you feel seen. Use your words. That's what we're talking about today. Using your words and using the correct words. Don't say, oh, I'm fine. And then when they do whatever, you be like, well, you knew I had an attitude. You said you were fine. That's passive aggressive. That's manipulative. That's unhealthy. The same way when toddlers are learning how to speak and they're pointing or they're crying, and you're like, use your words, use your words. What is that? You want the cup? Say cup. That applies to everyone. It in some reason it seems a lot harder when we're grown because we're way more stubborn and selfish and just want things our way. So just again, I'm making light of it because these are just all kind of little silly things we do, but they make a big difference in the way we are seen and understood in the world. So when it comes to things like therapy or uncomfortable conversations, it is going to be very difficult to address or correct something you mislabeled. For example, I wrote this example down. If you say the word progress, that is very different. Progress versus different is what I was putting down. So when you use the word progress, but nothing's changed, but I mean, some things have changed and things are different, but you're not like moving forward. I was having a conversation with a client and they were like, I feel like I'm making progress, but they weren't moving forward. There was no progression. And you might be like, oh, that's petty. No, because if you're not using the right words, how can we talk about making progress and measuring progress if you're going to misuse the word? So it does matter. And I was like, things are different. Things have changed. Yes. But you're still in the same, like, when people talk about walking in a circle or you're talking in a circle, you're not going anywhere except you're staying in the same place. There's a difference from going in a circle and going forward or forward, whichever way you want to use that analogy. Those are two different things. They just are. You can do something different and still not be making progress, right? If you decided to stop smoking cigarettes but started smoking cannabis, is that progress? I think that's debatable, but I'd say no if your goal is to stop smoking, right? And that's why language matters. Progress usually implies there's a goal, but just because things are changing, it doesn't mean you're working or getting closer to the goal. So those words are not the same. I hope that makes sense. Because again, I am well aware that I can overtalk and make things complicated. But I also used to be a teacher, and I know that everybody learns a different way, and so sometimes you need to give a variety of examples and explanations for different people to understand the point. So I hope this makes sense. I hope this helps if you are tired of arguing or tired of being misunderstood or whatever you're working on in your personal life. If any of this wasn't clear or you want more examples or more on this topic, you can definitely let me know in the comments and I'll see what I can do.